Most people think meetings suck, but they really don't. You just suck at running them. I am going to share the exact meeting framework that I implemented to go from 3-hour chaotic meetings to 90-minute execution machines that actually move the needle. Hey, this is Arjun. I'm the CEO and founder of doola.com, a business in a box for e-commerce based here in New York City that's raised over $13 million. I'm going to share the level 10 meeting framework, which I wish I learned decades ago. Literally, when I first started doing meetings in high school, I wish I knew of this framework. Because what if I told you you can actually have meetings that don't suck? And let me take you back. You're probably thinking meetings have to suck, because that used to be me. I thought that meetings were a byproduct of business and life that were unpleasant truths or things that you had to do. But then two things completely flipped my mind and broke my brain on this concept. The first was I read a book. A lot of things I learned from books. I call these earthquake books because once you read the book, your life isn't the same after. This book was High Output Management by Andy Grove. And there was one line in this book which just thumped me in the side of the head. It was, meetings are the medium by which managerial work gets done. Holy crap. I used to think that the only way that I could do work is no meetings, heads down, sending emails, calling people, etc. But as a manager, if you think about it, or actually in a company, the ultimate equation is you do certain activities that have certain amounts of leverage and that leads to output. So a meeting is actually a very effective way to get multiple people doing multiple activities with guidance which can create leverage to have even more output. So I completely reframed my perspective. Wait a second, meetings are a form of work. This is actually a type of work. And I shifted from thinking like a pure IC to, wait a second, I can actually provide leverage for the team around me. Meetings are the medium by which managerial work gets done. The second thing that completely flipped my head here is learning about this concept of a level 10 meeting, which full credit I learned from Gino Wickman in the book Traction. To be crystal clear, a level 10 meeting is a meeting that is ranked 10 out of 10. So the whole point is, at the end of the meeting, you'll actually go through and ask everyone to give feedback. And the goal is everyone ranks the meeting 10 out of 10. This is a form of work, and it's possible to, in 90 minutes, have a really fun, productive session, dare I say fun, that actually moves the needle. And the final thing I'll share is a little story where I realized there are other places in the world that actually do level 10 concepts. My favorite example of this is the emergency room. Both my parents are doctors, and I've gone to visit. And if you ever look or sit in the ER, you'll see that as people come in, what they do is they triage so well. Someone with a stab wound or bleeding, boom, let's go work on them. Someone with a non-open wound, hey, go sit down. They take the biggest problems, they solve them first, and it runs like a machine. These are the same concepts that need to apply to your meetings, where you actually prioritize and focus. So think of that emergency room analogy. This is what you want to do in this 90-minute time frame to sort of get these level 10 meetings. So step one of this framework is the 90-minute promise. Instead of having just open meetings that can go 3 hours or 30 minutes, which isn't enough time, you make a 90-minute promise. So we have this 90-minute promise in our weekly LTED. The meeting starts and finishes at the same time every single week. If the meeting isn't done by the time the meeting is done, sorry, the meeting is done. You have to finish in 90 minutes. Now, the reason why this is powerful is there's this law called Parkinson's law. Work expands to fill the time you give it. So if you give something 3 times, you'll be lackadaisical, you'll take your time. If you give it 10 minutes, you'll rush through. So if you give it 90 minutes, you're going to say, hey, we're going to give this our best in 90 minutes. This is also where I've tended to found attention spans start to winnow. Typically about an hour to 90 minutes when people start to lose attention. So it's a really good attention span window too. And lastly, constraints force focus. If you can't solve it in 90 minutes, it goes to another meeting. Okay, so first is you have to make that 90-minute commitment, pick a time. My recommendation actually for team meetings before we go on to the next step is use Tuesdays. We actually used to do it on Fridays, but I got some really good feedback from our CEO coach that on Fridays, you lose momentum going into the weekend because not everyone works Saturday and Sunday. Versus if you do it on Tuesday, people can come back from the weekend, get their priorities set for Monday, and then attack the week on Tuesday. And then you have Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for execution. So my recommendation, if you don't have a weekly leadership or department L10 meeting yet, is do it on Tuesday. Now I'm going to run through the exact agenda for an L10 meeting. So step 1 is make that 90-minute commitment. Step 2 is the exact agenda. This is how you run the meeting. The first step is the segue. This takes 5 minutes. Every person goes around and shares a piece of good news, professionally and personally. Now you might think, what's the point? We're here to work. This is such an important energy transition where you start the meeting with vibes and energy. It also is a great way to remember we work with people. So you actually get to hear professionally and personally what's going on. I love this though because it creates such a nice transition from whatever you're doing before into the meeting. It's a little ritual. And that takes 5 minutes. Everyone updates the doc. They put in their highlight for professional and personal, and then they go around and share it out loud. That's the segue. The next thing is the scorecard review. Everyone opens up the company scorecard. This is where you look at your metrics, and we go through and we say, is the metric on track or off track? Now, this creates extreme accountability. We know we're looking at it every single week, and if metrics are off track for too long, we drop it down and actually discuss as a leadership team. So again, no live discussion here in the scorecard review. It's just creating visibility and getting eyeballs on key metrics. Next up, we do rock review. Same thing here. We don't discuss the rocks, but every single person has to mark their rocks. They know the full group is going to look at the rocks and they mark, is it off track or on track? After that, we have customer/employee headlines. This is where you can give or highlight any relevant notices for employees, partners, or customers. This could be shout outs. It could be information updates, 5 minutes, 1 to 2 second headlines. If it requires more information, you'll drop it down to the meat of the meeting, which is the IDS section, which we'll get to. We then look at the next action or to-do list. This is so critical. One of the biggest complaints people have about meetings is that stuff doesn't get done or there aren't any clear next actions. So every meeting, we actually pull up the next action tracker or the to-do list, and we have every action item that someone was committed to do from previous weeks. And we go through one by one, and the person has to actually say, was it completed or not? This again creates extreme accountability. Not only are all the next actions or to-dos in one place, but you know you're looking at it each week, so you get in this culture of execution. Now, we get to the meat of the meeting. This is the bulk of your 90-minute meeting. This is called IDS, or identify, discuss, and solve. Now, before I get into what IDS is, the final part of the meeting is conclude. So no matter what, when you have 5 minutes left in the meeting, you could be in the middle of a sentence, you cut the meeting, and you switch to conclude. And this is because you've made that 90-minute promise for the meeting. And Parkinson's law, the more time you give, the more it'll expand. So that is the full step of the actual meeting. Now, I'm going to move to the next step just to focus on IDS, which is the meat of the meeting, the most important part. So the first step is you actually have to identify the core issue. Now, before we even get into this section, we require every person on the team to fill out the doc the night before. So people, if they have issues or information or problems that they're facing, they have to actually fill this out before the meeting. And this forces clarity of thought because you're preparing, you're not rushing before the meeting, and it gives everyone the next day to actually read and review and come prepared to the meeting. So with that pre-written note there, step one in the discussion is actually identifying what is the core issue here. Where numbers aren't going up, but what's actually the core issue? Is there a broken funnel? Is there a hire we need to make? Is our thesis off? Identify the core issue. The next thing is discuss. You have the brain trust there, you have the team, your department or leadership, actually discuss what's going on. And then the third step is to actually solve. Come up with an actual solution or next step. Now, once you go through that, what we do is we actually start a timer for 5 minutes on every topic. This allows us to, in 5 minutes, just say, hey, quick time check. Do we feel like we should keep going here? Is this important? Or should we, quote unquote, icebox this and send it to a specific sub-team meeting? Now, it's completely okay if you spend more than 5 minutes on a topic. This should be the most high impact important thing. And another thing, which you should do before the meeting, this is what I do, is I'll actually prioritize all the IDS topics. So we start with the most impactful things. What defines most impactful? Typically, it's what is going to get you towards your quarterly goals, whether that's a revenue goal, a product usage goal, etc. So the cool thing here is with IDS, it forces a wide range of topics to be covered, and every single issue has to solve with a who, what, when statement. Who is going to do what by when? And then it goes into the next action tracker. So you can see now how it's coming together. Talk about a topic, come to a solution. Okay, it goes into the next action tracker, and then next week you're going to look and see if it was done. And you now have this really precise machine of going from here's a problem, here's a solution, let's execute it week after week after week. And that gets fun, that gets addicting. That's why meetings can actually be fun. Okay, now with the IDS section, there are a couple critical rules that we follow. The first is people are focused on their laptops. You're not taking phone calls, you're not watching TV, you're all in and focused on the meeting. The second, and I'll say this again, is you start and finish on time. No matter where we are, with 5 minutes left in the meeting, we conclude and switch to the final portion of the meeting. And in the review or conclude section, we'll do a couple things. We'll look at the next action tracker to really align. Is everyone clear on what's coming next? Are there any pieces of communication you need to share? The team shares any upcoming out of office. And then we actually rate the meeting. So every person on a scale of 1 to 10 actually rates the meeting and shares why. The goal is to start getting at least 8s. When we first did it, we had 6s and 7s. Now we consistently get 8, 9s, and 10s. And then you have the compound effect. The first time you do it, it will be awkward. You'll learn that there are things you shouldn't do. I'll give you one example. When we started, I used to read out in like machine gun order, this person rock, on track, off track. And then people are like, hey, this felt a bit weird. Why doesn't each person just say it? So things won't be smooth the first time. There'll be questions of, hey, how do we talk about these metrics, or this topic went on for too long? So the first meeting, you're probably not going to do as well. You might get 6s or 7s, but lean into that feedback. I guarantee you, by meeting 3 through 10, you'll start to get 10s. And I kid you not, the first meeting we did, when we got 10s, it made my day. I wrote it in my 5-year gratitude journal. We got 10s in our L10 meeting. It completely made my day. So if you trust the process, you will get there. But being bad at something is the first sign that you're actually getting good at something. And the compound effect is so real. We now go through meetings and we're able to hit tens of issues sometimes each week on such wide topics. And if you think about it, there's 52 weeks in a year. If you're able to solve 5 to 10 topics each week, you're talking about solving 125 to 250 or more such high leverage topics every single year. That is the level 10 meeting framework system that we've used to go from 3-hour chaotic meetings to 90-minute execution machines that actually move the needle. And I kid you not, I actually enjoy these meetings and going to these meetings now. And remember, meetings are the medium by which managerial work gets done, and it is possible to have 10 out of 10 meetings. If you're skeptical, I promise you, give this a try. Meetings can be powerful. That is a wrap. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I put out content like this on the regular where I unpack things that I've learned building Doola. You can like and subscribe. I also have a business that helps founders launch and level up. That's what Doola is, a business in a box. Down below, you can actually click on a link and schedule a demo with the Doola team to see if we can help you scale your business. I also write a newsletter called the 2-Minute Business Hack, where each week I share an actual hack you can use to implement and improve your business. That's down below too. And if you have any questions on this concept or anything else about my journey building Doola, please comment down below. I'm an open book. I'm happy to answer. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.